Well, look, today's talk is going to be largely about systems and service, and the guy that just introduced me, he and his team are unquestionably the best, in my opinion, at delivering that within the industry. And I really just want to thank you, Chris, for the opportunity to share today. I'm going to start today with a story that started 13 years ago, and Chris mentioned my partner, Todd Wright. And Todd and I, 13 years ago, we opened the door to Train for the Game. We're about to have a staff meeting with our team. We're going to share with them how we were going to change the game, if you will, with how fitness was delivered, at least in Austin, Texas. Now, just prior to that meeting, I also informed Todd that we had $1,623.27, I haven't forgotten it, left in our bank account. Yeah, we had poured every single dollar, just about, into just opening up a special place, a special facility. And that was scary. Now, we were fortunate enough, we got a small little line of credit in order just to be able to make payroll the following week. Okay, so now, fast forward 13 years later, we've got over 700 annualized members. We're closing in on $3 million this year. We've got a 91% retention rate. We convert 87% of our trials. Okay, so now, I'm not telling you this to, sort of to puff my chest up or to kind of strut our peacock feathers, right? Rather, I'm telling you this because this isn't a theory. Okay, this is lived experience, and you can trust it. Now, what I hope to share with you today is the ways in which it's not going to take you 13 years to get that done. Okay, and I'm going to share with you a lot of the whys, because the whys do matter. But hang with me, okay, if you're kind of like, okay, what are we getting to when we get to the meat and potatoes here? We're going to take a deep dive into the whats, especially with regard to our high leverage areas. So let's start with awareness. Okay, awareness of where our time, our money, our energy, our currencies are actually going. Because without awareness, we can't see the actual problem. And simply put, we have an excellence problem. And it's not that you aren't pursuing excellence. You are. But like any driver on the road, we all have this blind spot, right? It's when something is there, but we can't see it or we don't see it. And in our case, that unseen area often has less to do with effort and more to do with the realities of this career in fitness. So we've got competing priorities, habits we built up over the years, right? And there's just some parts of the business don't come as naturally to us. But that blind spot, that creates a gap. And it's one that we rarely notice until we're right on the edge of it. We're moving forward, focused on the part of the field that we love, that we have a passion about most, but just ahead is a space that we have not prepared for. Look, and you can see those things in that space. That's technology disruptions, you got inflationary, pricing pressures, you got a freaking pandemic, competition, and even just, client expectations, they change. In each of those cases, the ground beneath us, it can give way. So, here's why the gap's so dangerous. Okay, so most of us, are comfortable focusing on training. That's why we're here today, by and large. Okay, it's what we know, it's what we love, it's what we're here to master. But the kinds of gaps we just talked about, they don't get solved by training alone. Okay, now, once aware of this is where the tension comes in. Okay, a constant real pull between the training that we love and the other demands of running a successful business. Now, you take that tension that we feel between training and the other demands of running a business, and we add excellence, even our own expectations, okay, the pull intensifies, and the tension can begin to overwhelm. And over time, that's when you begin to fray, sometimes literally hanging on by a thread, because we're uncertain if we're going to be enough to live up to the demands. And when the weight of that anxiety, of that uncertainty builds, we often start looking for the path of least resistance. Okay, and some way to quiet the emotions that are tied to that tension and those feelings. That's when these protective mechanisms come in, right? These sort of binary decisions, these either-or decisions. Okay, to resolve that tension, the anxiety, we pick a path. And more often than not, we choose what's been typically very rewarding to us, a commitment to training, and just hope to God that the business holds together on its own. Or we just avoid the decision altogether entirely. That actually is about as long as my neck, as I'm looking at it. Okay, we bury our heads, right? We keep doing what's familiar, and we tell ourselves, we'll deal with the business side later. Okay, but you know this, later could come too late. So, today's an invitation, right? To drop the perception that there has to be this tension between excellence in training and excellence in business. Okay, we're not forced to make these either-or decisions. Instead, we can adopt a both-and mindset. Okay, one that sees these two forms of excellence not as competitors, okay, for our limited resources, but as partners in producing the outcomes that we care most about. Okay, it's a psychological posture. It holds our attention on both ends, giving us permission to pursue training and business with equal purpose. Okay, and not to dilute either one, but rather to be able to commit to both. And look, we got to do this, y'all. Nothing's going to snuff out your passion for training faster than not having enough money, not having enough time and energy to study and work on your craft. Because when we approach it from the both end, the tension we felt resolves into alignment. Okay, where our intentionality allows training and business to support and multiply each other. Now, adopting both-and mindset, it's not just a mental shift, it's a practical one too. And you've heard me mention the word resources here already. Okay, and I like to think of those resources as currencies. And there's three primary ones we all trade in and allocate, whether we're talking about our work or our lives outside of it. And here they are, as you might expect, right? Time, energy, money. And these currencies we all trade in every day and everything that we do. But look, you got to take a hard look in the mirror. I know I did. And by the way, it doesn't look that great. But you got to change your lens in order to solve this excellence problem. Okay, because how we view our currencies, it matters. Right now, many of us are operating through this lens that keeps us in survival mode. Okay, and through the lens of survival, our currencies, they feel like pressures that we're forced to cope with. Time becomes obligation, your energy exhausted, money feels scarce. And when we see our currencies in this way, the way we respond is predictable. Okay, see those red words up there? You think we can develop an excellence in training under those circumstances? And survive an anxiousness, overwhelm, burnout? In other words, we're coping, and coping keeps us stuck. So, no matter which lens that you're looking through, we're always allocating these currencies, right? We spend them, we save them, invest them, we give them, and we receive them. The lens we use changes how and where those allocations go. So, we got to polish our lens, right? And the good news is our lens and our lived experiences, well, they can change too. If survival sees our currencies as pressures, then the Thrive lens sees them as resources. Resources that got to be managed. And through the lens of thriving, our time is rhythm, energy becomes capacity, and money is just means. And when we manage our currencies as resources, our behavior and how we express ourselves, well, it changes too. And so see those red words, right? See the contrast? The behavioral expressions of thriving, their attention, intention, and commitment. And these aren't just some nice ideas, okay? Let me read this to you. Through our Thrive lens, attention, intention, and commitment are the foundational elements that get brought into focus as behavioral expressions. And look, it's how we manage these resources that are excellence. Excuse me. Better put, maybe, attention defeats distraction. Intention defines direction, and commitment kills complacency. In short, excellence is the fullness of these behavioral expressions. Okay, but here's the deal. Okay, excellence is like smoke. Now, you might have wrongfully assumed that excellence is some sort of high outcome, some level above great. It's not a level. Okay, it's not a result. It's an orientation. And like smoke, you can't grab it. Okay, you can see it, you can smell it, you can sense it, you know when it's there, you know when it's not. Okay, you can only build the conditions for it and then see the evidence rise. So how do we create the smoke? How do we create the excellence? Well, we got to build a fire, y'all. Okay, so this is an acronym. It's just a simple way to kind of remember and communicate to your team these foundational elements that put excellence into motion. Focus. It channels our attention to what matters most. It helps us see point A clearly, where we truly are. This is a hell of a feat into itself. Intention, it aligns our actions with purpose. Okay, this is where the systems begin to take shape. I mean, the things we're going to talk about today. Resolve. It embodies our commitment through perseverance and follow through. These are where many of the practices live. Doing what we said we're going to do reliably and consistently. And then evaluation. It closes the loop, observing, adjusting, and keeping the fire alive. So you can read the top, but in short, no fuel, fire's fragile. No spark, it never starts. No oxygen, it suffocates. Without observation, it's going to risk burning out. But with all of them in place, it produces smoke, right? That's our excellence. Now, here's the deal. The smoke's a signal, right? It travels, it invites, it attracts, it communicates to your clients, your team, and your community. Something's burning, okay? Something's real, something's alive. So the question becomes, how do we build that kind of fire? How can we build the kind of business that has enough margin of time, money, of energy, that we can continue to have the bandwidth to become excellent at the training that we love? How do we construct the kind of business that our clients will rave about and tell their friends? And how can we ensure that it will continue to burn? So today we're going to talk about just that. Okay, we're going to talk about systems, service, and success. Now, as it relates to success, I am not going to define that for you. Okay, that is shaped by you, your vision, your values, your direction. Okay, that said, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to share with you a little bit of a framework, one that's helped me and it's helped others within our organization really begin to understand and define what success means for them personally, but then also what it can look like collectively inside of a thriving business. So we'll dig into systems deeply. Again, I need y'all to hang with me today, because we'll get to the nitty-gritty. Okay, it's the structure and the rhythm to your fire. It's the processes, the priorities, and intentional decisions that are going to direct the management of your currencies towards what matters most, once you know what that is. And finally, I'm going to challenge how you think about service. Okay, what it is, what I believe it's not, and why great services alone will never create the kind of competitive difference that your clients will feel and your team will run through walls to be a part of. And so look, there's a lot of meat on the bone today, and that's why I'm kind of ripping through and getting it going. I think Chris said, if you want to we can get all these slides on the app, right?
On the app, everyone has a QR code on their name badge.
All right, good. I'll even give Chris the most up-to-date version of this presentation, because I've been crafting it all the way up to right now. All right, but I prioritize the tools that will enable you to start to implement some systems, or at least some processes, on Monday. A lot of times you come to these things and it's like, well, hell, that sounds great, but now what the hell do I do now? Okay, but this is all of us. Okay, remember that story I told you we had about $1,600 in the bank account? We were flying our plane. We barely had some damn wings on the thing. We were going. It was a bucket full of hope and $1,600. Okay, we get these businesses up in the air and we build them as we go. We just need to know how to build them and what to build next. And this is organic chem. Now, I built most of the talk today because this is how I think, i.e., I can't understand the micro. And we're going to talk a lot about the micro today. I can't understand the micro unless I understand the macro. When I got to biochemistry, which when people hear me talk, they're like, you took biochemistry, that's surprising. When I took biochem, everything made sense. Okay, and that's why we're going to start with the macro today. So here is the macro, the business model. Now, you want to talk about business model, go talk to Alan Cosgrove. Okay, he's the father of it. He's the OG. We went down and we're like, hey, Alan, we think we know a thing or two about training, but like, how the hell are we supposed to do this? And he helped us understand and kind of, look, he's a father of the semi-private model. He helped us understand that. But this is the macro, right? These are your stakeholders. You got customers, you got the staff team, and you got the business. It's all about keeping these three stakeholders in a relative place of balance, kind of a near equal tension. Okay, but what informs the tension? Value. All right, now, we'll get my pointer ready. This is the entirety of the value in the business as it exists right now. Now, what I want you to notice at the very, very tip top right here, can y'all see my pointer that shows up? Okay. At the tip top of that, you've got customers' willingness to pay, right? Their perceived value of the service. And then below that, you got price. And the delta, or the difference, right there, well, that's your customer value, right? That's one side of that tension. Now, come on down to the bottom with me. This is your team's willingness to engage, the conditions under which staff will meaningfully participate in their work. By the way, there's a Dutchman that came up with this idea of the value stick. He's from Harvard, so that means he knows what he's talking about. But not all the way, right? If you look that up or you read about that, you're going to be like, man, CB, the bottom stuff you talked about, that's not how the Dutchman talked about it. That's because I think this guy went to Harvard. He's actually probably not run a business. So we talk about it a little bit differently at the bottom. So we've got this willingness to engage at the bottom, and then we've got compensation. Well, that little delta right there, that's our team value, and then what gets left in the middle, that's the business value, okay, the margin. Now, what we want to do, we want to elevate our customers' willingness to pay. Or we want to expand our team's willingness to engage. Now look, we've got some choices here. All of a sudden, things are kind of out of balance, if you will. And that's not bad. I love providing a ton of customer value. I love providing a ton of team value. But now we've got a little bit of choice. We can bump up price, and look, still looks pretty good up top. That's a pretty decent amount of customer value. Or we can bring down compensation. Uh-oh. I got some looks. You're looking at me like, what do you mean bring down compensation? What are you talking about, man? Okay, here's the deal. As you begin to, I've never seen anybody that's a high performer get paid less. We do not either. Okay, but as you expand and scale your business, you're going to bring on likely some young talent. Okay, oftentimes young talents, their experience, their knowledge sets, etc., well, they're not as vast, or they're not as good as some of your older, more tenured people. So they kind of come on, and their compensation is commensurate with their capabilities. And so what happens then is you end up getting this kind of blended average, if you will, of compensation. And yeah, it does come down a little bit, but relative to the volume, sort of the revenue that you're bringing in, okay? And so then we get back to this place of pretty near equal tension, but check this out. Look, y'all, I didn't manipulate this. I literally copy and pasted. That was our original value stick, and that thing damn near fits inside of our business value now in terms of the margin. That's what we need to do. Okay, but how do we do that, right? What are the things that we're going to do? Well, we got to find leverage, and leverage can show up in a lot of ways. Leverage, if you remember anything about the word, understand that it is a force multiplier of impact. It's if we do this one thing right, all the other things will be positively impacted. Okay, we need to find it, and we need to bake it into our organization's overall strategy. But what the hell is a strategy? Well, you can read it right there. It's basically how we're going to expand value within the organization to the stakeholders. And then again, on the second mention of Harvard, I did not go to Harvard. I went to Texas A&M, Gig'em. Coached in Texas. I'm all over the place. But we were recently given an article by one of our advisors. By the way, everybody needs a coach. Okay, everybody here needs a coach. One of our advisors gave us an article from the Harvard Business Review, and I was very pleased to find out within the review it said that 55% of the Fortune 500 CEOs could not clearly articulate their company strategy. Well, they're supposedly the best in the business. I guarantee you, whenever we started flying our plane, we didn't have a strategy. We're just like, let's go. This was pretty encouraging. All right, we go back here. So look, here's strategy continued. Let's read real quick. A concrete expression of how we're going to pursue excellence. We know what it is now. Look, it's the disciplined articulation of what we're pursuing, where we'll focus, how we'll win, anchored in clarity, evaluated by outcomes, and executed through aligned systems. Does that sound like the fire? Focus, intention, resolve, evaluation. Right? You're like, hey man, bills are due. Okay, I don't have time to work on strategy. Brother, I heard that. You heard that first story. I get it. I lived that. We lived that. Okay? But we're going to nail down some actionable insights today that can help you continue to construct your plane in the air as it exists today. Strategy just tells us where we're going to go, how we're going to fly that plane. So let's explore it just a teensy bit more. Now, you can read objective and scope. Those have to be there. But the thing I want to draw your attention to is the competitive advantage. It's a unique combination of offerings, capabilities, systems that deliver a compelling value proposition that differentiate us really from our competition, alternatives that are internally aligned and they reinforce delivery. Okay, your competitive advantage, if I could say it, it's your moat. Okay, how hard is your business going to be to attack? How resilient will you be and your business be to external and sometimes even internal circumstances that they're going to change. If you believe that your moat is the excellence of your training system alone, you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay, for example, think about it, y'all. I see, and I'm trying not to be too judgmental, but I see all around our local area, I see some training that, in my opinion, we'll call it subpar. But I don't think to be particularly wonderful. But yet, those businesses, they're still around. They're still doing okay. Maybe they're thriving. I'm not really sure. I can't see their books. Okay? The evidence of this is all around, if you're willing to take an honest look at it. So, this is strategy and context. This is one hell of a confused area, if you ask me. Now, it's not confusing, but rather it's a confused area. You got all these like academics and people that, consultants, et cetera, they want to talk about all this, have vision days and get you using all your time and your energy and money for a bunch of shit don't matter. Except that it does, if you do it right. So let's keep it in context. Let's look at identity first. Okay, this is huge, probably both personally and professionally, just to be honest with you. But it's who we are, the core of our ethos, values, and cultural DNA. If you move down to vision, it says what do we aim to elevate or transform in the world? And then our purpose, it's the active what that bridges vision to execution. Here's a big one. Here's how you're supposed to understand it. What are we called to do in light of who we are and what we see? And we already know what strategy is, right? That singular, rather time-bound outcome that defines success. And then we've got objectives and key results. I've listed it as strategic, but just think objectives and key results. We're going to talk about this a ton right here, but effectively, these are the outcomes. They are organized by domain, don't forget that word, and by system, right? They're directional, quantifiable, and they indicate progress. Now, below that is these things called critical drivers. We can call them plans, right? These are the causes. They're curated, high leverage. There's that word again, leverage. High leverage, multi-domain behavioral rhythms, that influence our key results. They're measured, they're managed, and they are coached. We call those things blueprints that train for the game. And then finally, in the core of the talk, right, is systems and processes. Systems are housed within a business domain. Each system is built from processes, which are just repeatable flows of work. Excuse me, I'm gonna drink a little coffee because my voice is about to go. We started our journey with OKRs, and effectively, it just stands for objectives and key results, right? Read the book, Measure What Matters by John Doerr, okay? It's just a framework to kind of organize your garage of stuff in your business. It's a great way to start operating with excellence. OKRs helped us organize and agree on these specific time-bound things that we were going to do to help achieve our overall objective. Simple, okay? But I'm going to tell you a story real quick. So for the longest time, look, we've got a great team. We always have. It's just for the longest time, we would, hey, I need you to get that done for me. Yeah, you got it, coach. I'll get that done Friday, no problem. Friday comes, hey, I don't have it done. You're like, hey, it's okay, I understand. We're all working our asses off. We understand it's an energy business and it's intense. And we're very understanding of one another. Okay, the problem is we were confusing being really nice with being a great teammate. And worse, when he was dealing with me, I was being a really crappy leader because there wasn't any accountability. That's why leadership's important. Now, these days, especially these days, leadership is the act of organizing co-creation. Now, I stole the middle definition here from this guy, I adopted a little bit. But leadership is now key within a relationship, helping teammates understand their opportunities, within the team's opportunities, and making sure we've got the discipline to see it through. Okay? When strategy is clear, teammates are ready, and the systems are there to support them, the results are alignment, not just of operations, but everybody's heart. And notice this, okay? It's about finding who works, what works, and making sure we're all clear, equipped, and bought into the when, the how, and the why. But that whole thing started with who. There's nothing more important, nothing more impactful than great people. So, that you and your team don't need to end up here, okay? Stuck, burned out, overwhelmed, anxiety-ridden. So look, we just need some systems, right? We got to have well-devised systems that provide structure that elevate us up, right? get our daily work done with great people pursuing excellence rather than weighing them down. And sometimes it's less structure to help elevate them in the moment, and it's more about just, buoying them up, right? Making sure that the standard is met, ensure that their standard is met. Sometimes they just need help. They want to. They just, again, a great system can help lend a hand, almost like a teammate, to help an excellent person. So here's some characteristics of a well-designed system. Okay, structured enough to guide, loose enough to breathe. It's not the solution alone, rather it's the stage. And in these systems, they depend on judgment at the edges. You know this. Can't really see that at the bottom, but they're smart in the center and they're flexible enough at the edges. They define the floor and elevate the ceiling. And this is a big one. Systems can either amplify or restrain human excellence. In every one of them, every system, it implies a measure of trust and control. All right, so here's what we're going to do. How do we design, right? Now we're starting to get to some utility, okay? First off, we got to locate it, okay? Where are we improvising something that should be repeatable? Where are we confusing heroic effort with healthy design? Two, we got to define it, okay? Who ultimately owns the outcome? What are the roles, the tools, and the checkpoints involved? Okay, are we clear on what good, bad, or great looks like? And how the heck are we going to know when we're actually there? Please don't confuse success, or rather silence for success. Now, prioritize and link for leverage. Here's that word again. It's a big deal, leverage. But I want to draw your attention to the bottom. This is the crux of it. Does this tighten one bolt, or does it stabilize the whole machine? And here's how you can kind of look at it. So the questions to ask as it relates to friction are, where are things harder than they ought to be? As it relates to impact, what affects the most people most often, most meaningfully? And then in terms of visibility, where will improvement be felt or seen most quickly? And as it relates to momentum, what system, once improved, makes the other systems work better? Number 4, design it. And this is the fun part, right? Sketch it, write it, communicate it, but make sure it doesn't live in your head. Make sure it's clear and usable, shareable. Assign it. Who's responsible for the success? Who owns the authority, right? If it breaks, who notices? Who fixes it? 6 is test it. Now, that's not a full-on deployment, y'all. It's not like, hey, we're just going to take this thing we designed and let's just shift it out to everybody. Just test it, dose it out there, and see what goes on. Okay, does it elevate the floor or depend on the ceiling? 7 is calibrate it, right? Everything's got to evolve. Is the system still solving the right problems, or are we just loyal to the structure, okay, or to the outcome that it was designed to serve? Now, here are some assumptions. Now, these are big things you want to check, right? But mainly, go through all those questions and challenge yourself. What's the cost if we're wrong about what's working? And a couple of consequence considerations, both first order that are in direct context, second order, how are these things going to influence the other systems? And the big challenge here is what future problems are we unintentionally creating or solving ahead of time? All right, so excellence, it's not about perfection, right? We already went over that, right? It's the fullness of the commitment, the attention, and intention. But look, these things give behavioral expressions somewhere to land and be leveraged. Okay, more than anything, design them with curiosity, build them with creativity, deliver them with discipline, refine them with humility, and most importantly, make sure that they serve great people. Now, here's how it's organized, at least with us. You can do it how you want. We start with the domain, right? The highest level, a functional area of the business where multiple systems are at work, working towards the domain's core intent. Okay, a system, a set of coordinated processes designed to produce a specific, consistent outcome in service of the domain intent, and then the process, just the individual flow of actions, right? Decisions, responsibilities, they're what make the system function. Keep it simple, okay? Here's the deal. We got one location. Like, you guys got a bunch of locations, right? Yeah. I come learn from you. Okay, we got one location. But we're going to do over 62,000 visits this year. Okay, we got a little over 11,000 square feet. So we got to keep it simple enough to execute in real time with real scale. So these are the domains. Talk about simple. This is it. There's 4 of them. We got the team domain, client lifecycle domain, training domain, and the operational domain. Here's what, let me see if I get, there you go. Here's what it looks like. That's a domain. Right there in the middle, that's the core intent. All these systems around there, those are designed to make sure we get that thing done. And so here's the domains with the systems. There's not more than that. Okay, there's 4 main systems per domain. Now let's start with client lifecycle system. The client lifecycle domain. The first system is lead creation and onboarding. We've got detailed processes, if you will, on how we do that. I'd make sure you stay. I'm sure you will. For the other guys after this, I know I am. I'm going to come learn from them and what they're doing. Okay, but detailed systems and processes in there. We've got a trial client experience. One of the main reasons I'm excited about staying around after this talk is that we don't really sell. We execute. Okay, and then we help educate our customers on how they can continue to, stay with us and participate in our program. Okay, we think that that's how we actually end up selling. We've got member communication systems. Those things matter. All and only is a big deal. You over communicate, they start ignoring you. Okay, and then member retention systems. Okay, 91%. That's what we've done over the years for a long, long time. Some of you may be doing a heck of a lot better than that, and if you are, come grab me because I want to learn. Okay, we go on to the training domain. You want to learn training? Make sure you hit up Todd Wright tomorrow. You'll learn a ton about training. We do think that we have a differentiated training approach, but again, that's not the main crux of my conversation today with you, okay? And then lastly, operations domain. There's a lot here. If I had to bias probably towards anything, I love this. I love operations. Chris kind of referenced it earlier. Look, scheduling, is it friction or is it frictionless? Can customers come in and get what they need when they need to get it? Make sure that happens. As it relates to facility management, y'all, we got to win the hour. As it relates to facilities and cleanliness and organization, we talk about winning the hour all the time with our entirety of our staff, whether it's interns, assistant coaches, or coaches. Okay, imagine this. Number one, like you're open for, 13, 14 hours a day, right? And for whatever reason, some circumstances exist where you're kicking ass all day long, except for 9:30 in the morning, something happens where you're consistently not what you want to be. But yet all those, there's a certain amount of people that probably come at that time all the time. They're making the assumption that that's how you operate 24 hours a day. And they go tell their friends, hey, they're great, they're really nice, it's good training, but man, place is a disaster. We got to win the hour. Those are things that are under our control. And then look, you got billing and payment and financial reporting. Now, something worth mentioning about operations. So a long time ago, we use MindBody. Don't get me started, but we use MindBody as a back end. I've got a couple laughs there, we had a little system called Listen 360. It was piggybacked on the API of MindBody. So whenever somebody get done with a session with us, they'd be prompted, if you will, texted and say, hey, how likely are you to recommend training for the game to a friend on a Likert scale that was largely meaningless. But there was this opportunity to have a little bit of sort of just free response in the bottom. And this is back in the day before AI, at least as it existed today, at least as it exists today. But they did this, thing they called linguistic analytics. Now, before I tell you what they said, keep this in mind. We have spent literally millions of dollars on our educations, countless amounts of our resources on studying, understanding, learning how to just train the human body for performance or fitness or whatever you want to call it. Okay, in the context of that, think about this. What's the number one thing they said that they loved about us? Well, number one, they said, I love that they know my name. Number two, I love how clean the facility is. And number three, and I swear to God, this blew my freaking hair off. We love those eucalyptus cold towels y'all got. I was like, son of a bitch. But it was telling, right? It's telling. Operations matter. Okay, so that's why we've got this as a domain. I'll make sure I'm right where I need to be here. Yeah, let's visit on the team domain. All right, because this is the situation, right? And team resolves, the tension. Now, remember our value stick, and recall that leverage is a force multiplier. You want to prioritize and link for leverage, right? Prioritize the team domain and all its related systems. They're the ultimate leverage to expand value for your customers, your people, and your business. So let's look at it. Number one, staff pipeline and advancement. We're going to get into it. Onboard and education. Oh yeah. Professionalism and culture development, and internal comms and team coordination. All right, so let's get into section 1.1. I told you there's going to be some meat. Okay, purpose, establish a structured, values-based pathway. You know, it's interesting. We've got a pretty robust internship process, so I go up to the University of Texas all the time. I'll give a talk, and there's just all these kids, and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'm just going to go into physical therapy. Well, physical therapy's got this really defined path, but for the most part, y'all, our field, our industry, there is not a defined path. So we, at least within our little context, try to create that defined path, if you will, to be able to get people in and make them a part of our team. So look, we want to cultivate and advance talent from intern to full-time coach. So we've got a process, right? How do we bring them in? We do campus outreach. Okay, we do interest list collections. We direct them to our webpage. We do all these entry interviews, expectation briefings, value alignment screening. Screening's a big deal. Make sure you got the right prompts, right questions to ask these young people, because you got to ask them. Otherwise, they're just going to sit there like this and look at you and be like, I mean, it's wild. They don't communicate. Like, maybe I need to talk to you on the phone, or maybe we can text, or whatever. I don't know. And then we do pre-orientation onboarding, required shadow days, and a bunch of pre-work materials. Now, we've got an assistant coach selection process. We're going to pull from the internship. Internships are about identifying. Assistant coachships, if you will, are about cultivating. But we got to drag them out of there, right? So we've got this formal review, right? We're going to evaluate our 4 Ps. We'll talk a hell of a lot more about that in a minute. Core values and technical competency, because training does matter. Okay? They've got to demonstrate this readiness, but we've got to define criteria for advancement. And then look, we've got to take them out of that assistant coachship, and we got to make sure that they are ready to be put all the way into our full-time coach role. There we go. Section 1.2, onboard and education. Okay, we got to equip interns, assistant coaches with frameworks, behaviors, and the expectations required to progress with clarity and, most importantly, with confidence. All right, so we've got orientations, a lot of it. I do a ton of this. Okay, we've got orientation that covers culture, communication tools, our blueprints, values, professionalism, expectations. Look, onboarding makes sure they've got an understanding of role clarity and they understand the pathway. Same thing, we got an intern curriculum. Okay, it's 16 weeks long, largely. Sometimes it depends on the season of the year, right? If it's summer versus fall or spring. Okay, it's just very detailed. I'll show it to you in a minute. But we go over core checkpoints, hospitality first. We got to teach them anatomy, for God's sakes. It's amazing. These kids are coming out of a 4-year university, University of Texas, Texas State, et cetera. They don't know anatomy. They don't know the first thing about it. Okay, we require, if you will, to take the CAFS, the Certification of Applied Functional Science by the Gray Institute, if you want to get into our assistant coach process. And again, we're going with core values and 4 Ps. And then, the assistant coach curriculum. It's pretty detailed, right? We start to take out of the internship the foundational things, put it into some things that are just leveled up. And in this case, we actually have our own kind of curated stuff. Plus, we actually have them do some of Mike Boyle's his certification as well. So these are our internship curriculums for the intern and the assistant coach. Go to our website today. We've got them there. You can look at the whole thing. Okay. The big thing here is we want to use education to market and attract interns because we want lifetime learners. Now, section 1.3, professionalism, cultural development, or culture development. We're going to go into this a ton, so I'm going to kind of get through this pretty quick. But look, to sustain coaching excellence and team cohesion, we've got to have this sort of value-based behavioral standards. Okay, we have a triennial review process. It works better for us than quarterly. It kind of works with our rhythms to the year. Okay, but we're going to evaluate professionalism to the 4P and core value framework, and we are going to evaluate technical knowledge and skill. Because again, I'm emphasizing business training does matter. I'm not going to hammer this because we're going to go into the detail, but the 4 Ps, they define professionalism on the floor, and core values govern the relational and cultural behavior. And then look, we've got these plans, right? These blueprints. We got them for sessions, all session types we got, and we got them for hospitality. This is kind of the most granular of our tools, right? In terms of how we teach the most detailed standards of expressions of those 4 Ps and the core values. And then lastly, and this is a big one, okay, internal comms and team coordination. we got to enable fast, clear, role-specific communication across these decentralized schedules. Decentralized schedule means, and you know this, like it's all over the place. If you want to get everybody, kind of in the same room for an hour, I mean, that's an act of God. Okay, so like we got to have some way, if we're going to make sure that we're communicating in real time with everybody in a way that is meaningful, that we can do that. Now, we do that through Slack. Todd, when Todd was at the Sixers, Philadelphia, he's like, hey man, check this out, dude. We got this thing called Slack. It's a game changer for us. Okay, it allowed us to kind of organize everything by channel, topic, by role. Like we got a client-related channel, facility schedule, time off request, you name it. Everybody's trained on how to use it. We got protocols, and we've even, how we're gonna like let each other know we've got it. Like if I send something out, somebody gives me a thumbs up, say I hear that, I see that. That's my trigger to know at least it's been read. But then once it gets done, it gets a green check at the bottom of it. So like at any time of the day, if I'm just wondering about something, did this get done, or somebody else has a task, did that get done? We know, we're all on the same page. And then look, client update stuff. A lot of the qualitative stuff that we use Bridge as a distribution component for Bridge Athletic, that's a digital training platform. We use that for all of our training, but a lot of the qualitative stuff, it lands more and is best shared within Slack. And then creative collaboration. These are meetings. These are all hands project team meetings. And this is important. They're meant to emphasize and facilitating openness, full staff participation. That's everybody, our young people, our older people. Okay, there's room for disagreement, but make sure there's time enough for alignment and next steps. And I would probably say most important, we cancel them on consensus. You won't piss some people off, have a meeting where you don't have an agenda and you're like, hey guys, how's everybody doing? They're like, yo, seriously, get me out of here. All right, so that's good. Let's refocus though on professionalism and culture development again, because team is the ultimate force multiplier as it relates to value expansion of the key stakeholders that we talked about, right? And this is a popular quip. So what do you think? Is that true? What do you think? Yeah, the answer is yes. Yeah. No. Well, hopefully you've learned to recognize, right, this trap, that sort of both and, that binary decision, okay? The lens that is ultimately going to lead you down a path you probably don't want to go. So let's look at it differently. Let's change the punctuation. Okay, cold tree strategy for breakfast. Well, we learn what strategy is, the advantage it supplies. We sure as hell know that eating breakfast is good for you. So yeah, excellent culture does need to fuel itself with strategy. Strategy is important. We've talked about it plenty, so let's talk about culture. All right, in a service business, your culture is your brand. Simple. Okay, you can't market your way past a team that doesn't embody your values, I promise you. Okay, in a service business, there's no insulation between who you are internally and how you're perceived externally. Okay, every client-facing behavior, it's a brand moment. Culture, well, ours is team, but culture is the expression of an organization's identity and how it feels to belong to work within it. It's how teammates behave when no one's watching, especially when everybody's watching, okay, and how it feels, if you will, to be a part of the organization and understand what they in the organization truly value. Oops, go back. All right, that's our team, about 13 of them. Now, the one thing that I would do is I would draw your attention, okay, to the number of years that the people been with us, been on our team. Okay, one of the reasons that we're so passionate about systems is because our customers are used to a veteran level of excellence. Okay, imagine being in year one, being a full-time coach with us and being compared and held to the same standard as somebody that's been doing the thing for 2 decades. Okay, without systems, they won't be equipped to meet the standard. Systems have helped us transform our client expectations of our coaches, our young coaches, into being something that's reasonable. And for goodness sakes, this made me laugh, okay? Don't be an asshole. Okay, be a we person. And then speaking of we person, I gotta mention this guy. This is Todd Wright. He's a founder of Training for the Game. I just kind of came along, all right? Now from the outside, he embodies training excellence. Okay, but those who know him know that he embodies team. Please go listen to his talk and his hands-on tomorrow. Your bias, which I'm sure you all have, I think we've already talked about it, is if it's towards training, you're gonna get a ton out of his talk tomorrow. All right, so we said culture. We said team is our culture trained for the game. It's an expression of our identity. So here's a little breakdown.
with some words that I believe often get misunderstood and conflated and misused. Identity, it's who you say you are. Values are values are what you claim to prioritize. Character is how you reliably live those values over time, and behavior is the bridge between them all. It's a visible test of alignment. So how do we influence behavior? Well, we got to define our values and professionalism, right? Right in there. I told you we'd talk about these things. This is on our website too. This is who we are. We're coaches who create environments that people love coming back to every day. And the reason we do it is we experience being and helping people move from where they are to where they want to be. Okay, and those core values below, that's what they are. We'll read them here. It's important to know that each value threads all the domains, the systems, and the processes through behavior. That's it. Number one, help the helper. It creates the environment. It's teams, teamwork, mutual support for one another, right? It's not just about being nice. We talked about that. That'll get you beat. Rather, it's a culture where everyone lifts each other up, spots and sharpens one another. Number two, deliver great service with incredible hospitality. Wait a minute. I said service and then hospitality. I'm implying they're not the same thing? Yeah. It creates the experience. It's the soul of the client experience. It's baked into the how. This is the value that creates the difference between compliance and care. Number three, embrace change rather than knowledge and innovation. This, y'all, creates capacity. You got to keep learning. That's what we want, lifelong learners. This value sustains our systems. It ensures they're not static. It's the posture, okay? It lets feedback loops work. And then lastly, I've got a bias towards this one. I like to say, what you do so loud, I can't hear what you say. Right? Demonstrate commitment through actions. It creates the standard. It's the litmus test. Do we follow through? Are we consistent? It's where professionalism becomes visible. So, system defines what gets done, while values shape how it feels to do it and why we persist in doing it well. The relational and behavioral threads are run through every system. They bring the heart, the human. They infuse the systems with spirit. They help us, in short, frame true professionalism. So, these are the pillars: people, poise, precision, perseverance. All right, they create clarity of responsibility, consistency of behavior, and coordination across the team. They define the role. They give shape to the standards. They create the guardrails for execution and train for the game. Let's get into them. People. How you make others feel. Oh, we got two other P words there. Look at that. Presence and personality. We love some alliteration. All right, so here's why it matters. In a hospitality first business, how someone makes others feel, it's the heartbeat of trust. Okay, retention. Big deal with retention. Okay? Our definition, they demonstrate warmth, authenticity, and confidence that create an emotional connection and trust. Here's how we determine if it's there or not. So it's a key thing with these behavioral indicators. You got to have ways to kind of extract this, right? You got to have some prompts. You got to have some questions. You got to have some conversational tools in the evaluation, the triannual evaluations. But these broadly are what we're looking for. Look, they greet others with energy and attention, uses appropriate humor, commands attention without force, and builds rapport naturally with diverse clients. And then you got to stratify it. Okay, no matter what your organization is and how you put it together, flat, real vertical, whatever, you just got to make sure that you got everything stratified across or up and down your organization so people at every strata understand what their expectations are as it relates to this. Now, we got poise. How do you handle challenge? Okay, why it matters? Well, we're in some pretty damn dynamic environments, right? You got people coming in, they got all kinds of baggage. One day they're like this, and next day they're like that. Okay, it requires some poise. It's what keeps the room safe, productive, and responsive. Look, we got to maintain a calm, confident composure when we face the pressure. And the behavioral indicators, look, responds gracefully to last-minute changes. How many times y'all been around some people, you like give it one little tiny change, it's like, damn, you're like, wow, I can't believe that's what set you off. Making eye contact. All right, handles multiple client needs simultaneously. This literally defines our customized sessions, our semi-private sessions. I mean, it defines it. We got to spin these plates. Okay, we can't be dropping them. It's not juggling. Juggling, you got to drop stuff. We got to spin the plates around. Okay, adjust mid-session without panic, accepts feedback and correction without defensiveness, and here's how we stratify it. Again, I'm going to get through this. Y'all look at the app that Chris is going to have you download. Y'all get whatever you want here as it relates to the stratification. Precision. Are we going to do it cleanly? Okay, a lot of the training excellence, this is where it lives. Okay, why it matters? Well, it matters because technical and logistical excellence ensures training safety. I mean, number one, and anybody who's hurt anybody in your gym understands acutely at that moment how important safety is. You can really lose sight of that if there's these long spans of time where nobody gets dinged up. But as soon as it happens, you're like, oh crap, we got to reorient everything. Don't wait for that to happen. Make sure it's oriented the right way to begin with. But look, we got to execute session plans, logistics, and exercises with accuracy, intention, and consistency. So here's our behavioral indicators. These are simple enough, right? Executes warm-ups appropriately, manages equipment. That's a lot of intern stuff. Delivers correct cueing and technique adjustments. Transitions smoothly between session phases. Kind of like a duck, right? That duck's going on top of the water, nice and smooth. Nothing's going on, but underneath, I mean, those feet are cranking, right? And then lastly, that's how we stratify. Okay, lastly, perseverance. Now, just like I kind of had a little bit of a natural bias to the last core value of demonstrate commitment through actions, I got a little bit of a bias towards this. Will you keep showing up fully engaged, learning and growing? Oh, I think a lot of this is how you're raised, okay? And to some degree, what you got inside you. This is how you can really express it. Okay, our work demands emotional endurance. Can I get an amen? That's right. Down up here in the north, we don't get as big amens. Can I get an amen? There we go. All right. All right. Perseverance distinguishes those who rise and stay from those who fade. We demonstrate disciplined effort, resilience across time, across feedback, and challenge. Okay, how are we going to know? Responds constructively to correction or failure, maintains the energy and effort through long weeks, long months, long seasons, long years. We got people doing this for 20 years, y'all. Talk about emotional resilience. Okay, and you bounce back from mistakes. You're going to make them, especially when they're young. But how do they bounce back? What kind of attitude do they have as it relates to that? And then the stratification. All right, so it's how we integrate those two things together. It's values integrated with professionalism, okay, or what we call VIP. That's who we bring on as full-time coaches. It's how we link them together and exhibit them behaviorally. This is what we're looking for. Now, you can read up there the value link, and that is the core value link, and the professionalism link. But in short, number one, we're looking for initiative-oriented people, relationally attuned people, hungry to learn and evolve people, consistent and accountable type of people. We evaluate these with both scaled and qualitative assessments as full list of prompts. Okay, the team is fully aware of these things, right? I send it to them ahead of time. That way they can really consider it. We can have discussions where the deltas on those perceptions may exist, but even more so that we can have rich conversations that lead to growth. But where does this land? Okay, you still think, like this all exists in the clouds to some extent, right? Like, I don't know, like this is a little bit fluffy. I'm not sure what we're going to do on Monday. Okay, our blueprints are where the rubber meets the sky. Okay, remember the hierarchy we visited on earlier? We said critical drivers, the causes, curated high-leverage multi-domain behavioral rhythms that influence key results. They're measured, managed, and coached. These are the blueprints. These things live, if you will, between the systems and all the domains, right? Well, here we go. Again, review, but they're taught as the most detailed standard expression of our 4 Ps and core values. This is how they come alive. Oh, crap, y'all aren't going to be able to see that. It was a lot bigger on my screen. Okay, well, let me read it to you. This is a blueprint to a great customized session. Customized to us is 1 coach up to 4 clients. Everybody's got their own individualized program. Every single time they come in, they don't have to come in the same time. They come in whenever the heck they want. They get what they want when they need it. Okay, but they're going to get an individualized program that day that's progressive. It's not something we're just pulling out of our rear ends, right? We've got it all documented. We've got it planned. Coaches, they're not just a bunch of robots and monkeys. We're saying, hey, y'all are really good at what you do. Here's a great plan. Now, I need you to look. I need you to use your eyeballs, not just be a technician, be a scientist. I need you to coach and cue and evaluate and see what's going on. Make sure that our people, our customers rather, are layered, if you will, with regard to our cues and helping them to execute at a higher level. But how do we do this? Number one, I mean, y'all might laugh. I don't know, but I ain't laughing. We started the session on time. Does that make anybody go kind of like that? Like, oh, maybe I'm a little bit guilty of that sometimes. Better not be. You're going to get beat. And not physically. I just mean, we got you. Introduced anyone new, or they may not know the other clients in the group. You got to create community. I will tell you now, I am guilty of this. Sometimes, I mean, we're in there all day long. It always surprises me sometimes when clients, they'll oftentimes be in there like at 6 a.m. and then their routine, and then they'll randomly come in at like at 3 o'clock and they're like, oh, you're still here. And you're like, yeah, full-time job. Yeah. Okay. But a lot of times our clients come in and we'll just assume they know the people in their group and maybe it's not their normal time. But if you introduce them, all of a sudden you're expanding your community. That's why it's non-negotiable. That's why it's in the blueprint. Okay. Use names of the clients throughout the session, focused on coaching, visited sparingly. Look, you're gonna make some relationships with these people, and it's gonna be, it's gonna be conversational. But we got to get done with the core thing that they're there for, or at least they think they're there for, which is the training. And then, as you'll see, the relationship stuff begins to flourish. Projected your voice well, was positioned to win or coach the entire group effectively, moved well and often throughout the session, demonstrated awareness of the clients within their group and then around their group. We got 11,626 square feet. We have roughly 65 people on the training floor about every single 30 minutes. There's a lot of moving parts. The whole thing shape shifts, depending on what we're offering. You got to have an awareness of what the hell is going on, not just in your group and being selfish. You got to know what's going on with your teammates' people as well. Because at the end of the day, they ain't your people, they're our people. I'm getting all fired up like you guys, All right, establish and maintain a good flow for the session. Coach the established cues. Coached each client, each exercise, and each set in a layered manner. We use a process called position, action, and feel, and had great energy and body language throughout the session. Okay, look, and that has everything to do with winning the hour. You're good at 6, but if you ain't good at 9, well, maybe some personal things you got to get done. I ask these people, I ask some of our young people, I'm like, you having a good day today? They're like, okay. I'm like, well, hold on, let's start that over. Okay, this is an energy business, about an exchange of energy. You need to be great. You need to be great. You better have rainbows and sunshine coming out your ass. Okay, had great energy. There we go. Regularly encourage clients. This is a big one. Use specific coaching cues as a platform for specific praise. That's all session long. But you have to state that. It's got to be explicit. Now, we got some specialized things I think that differentiate us within our melt, mold, move. Again, training excellence. Talk to Toddy tomorrow. He's going to nail it. I'm excited to listen to his talk. We've got strength bridges, everything's percentages. We've got to get stuff entered, appropriate finishers where we have time, and then post-session, right? Filling out bridge programs, making sure we post things in Slack, and then weekly, making sure any little nuance changes need to get made with our people's programs get made. That's the blueprint. That's where the rubber meets the sky. Okay, these are our session types. Customized, that's our semi-private, essentials, exclusive, youth, and senior. Look, you got processes you can make for all these. We already know how to do it for systems. Newsflash, it's the same thing for your processes. Okay, so you still may be somewhat confused or even a little bit irritated at this point, frankly, as to why I'm just, going on and on and on about all these people things. Well, I got an answer for you. First, I got a little story time. Now, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to mess it up because it's not mine. I'm about to use an analogy that's not mine. It is by Danny Meyer. He is a world-famous restaurateur. It's, in my opinion, the most perfect description of what we're really doing every day. So Danny says to imagine your business as a light bulb, and the primary goal is to attract moths. Now, what if you learned that 49% of the reason that moths were attracted to the bulb was for the quality of its light, the brightness being the task of the bulb? And now what if you learn that 51% of the attraction was due to the heat projected by the bulb, the warmth or the feeling the bulb projects? It's remarkable How many of our businesses shine brightly when it comes to acing the core tasks, but give off all the warmth of a cool fluorescent light? If you want to be nearly overcome with moths, we need to be a whole strand of 100-watt light bulbs whose product is the sum of 49% task and 51% feeling. But our clients are moths, they're humans, and it requires other humans and their warmth to attract others. If you want the ultimate competitive advantage, you want to build the ultimate moat around your business, build a culture of team that's capable of delivering more than just a collection of systems and processes. Cultivate and support the kind of people that serve others, serve one another with their whole heart, their whole person. When you really care about a person, when you're talking to someone from your heart to theirs, it's encouragement, which literally means to enhearten. And when you're doing that, speaking this hard language of hospitality, it's speaking to their intellect, their will, and their emotions. The systems we use, the actions we take, and the manner in which we deliver them have everything to do with how our clients will recognize, accept, and feel our hospitality. That we're on the same team. Okay, but how do we do that? Well, two principles. We got to make them feel safe, and we got to make them feel seen. So look, as it relates to making feel safe, and again, you got this in your app, but it's belongingness. Okay, I walk in a place, I feel like I belong. Control, I feel like I'm going to be listened to. Attachment, they got people that have been there a long time. I understand and have relationships with them. Competence, this is where some of the training piece comes in. Do they know what the hell they're doing? Physical security, we got to win the hours relates to facility. Is the place safe? Okay, emotional safety, fairness, and reliability. Make it feel seen. Okay, recognition, clients know that they're not just a number. Acknowledgement, we said the number one thing that they wanted, that they thought was great about us, that we knew their first name. I mean, not a high bar, y'all, but how often does everybody in your entire team execute that every single hour? Okay, validation. We could say, hey, Sally, it's perfectly normal to feel a little anxious when you first come in. But all these matter as it relates to making them feel seen. So again, those can be lofty, those can be cloudy. And if you're like an intern and I just did train for the game and I presented that to you, they'd be like, okay, like I don't really know what to do here. Look, again, the blueprints are where the rubber meets the sky. So we have a document that are the 44, and I've got micro in quotes because they sure as hell ain't make micro. They're a big deal. Of hospitality trained for the game. It is a behavioral blueprint for making people feel safe and seen. This is the core thing to keep in mind. People may remember what you said or did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And we got it organized like this. Okay? There's 44 baked into these sections. Greeting and first impressions, names and personal connections, awareness and responses, body language. I'm going to tell you right now, you better not have bad body language. I'm pretty cool. Well, I'm not cool, but I'm pretty collected. But you got bad body language, we'll have a conversation. Okay? And lastly, environment and facility care, professional appearance and grooming, boundaries and balance, special circumstances, and dignity, because that matters. Look, as we draw closer to the end here, please hear me. Okay, keep it simple, and don't let the perfect be the enemy of good. Your business is going to move at the speed of your decisions. Will you decide to act? Will you allow this information today to polish your lens that we talked about? A lens through thriving, through excellence, now redefined. Excellence supported by the structure, systems, and great people. Okay, you now have the framework to better evaluate where you truly are right now, point A. And now you can build your way towards where you want to go, point B. And this, in my experience, is where everybody wants to go. Okay, whether they're fully aware of it or not, this, in my experience, is success. All right, identity. Do we know who we are? Okay, what have we been called to do? That is our purpose. And when we're achieving it, have we done it in such a way that it allows us to experience meaning? It's not just what you do, but it's the spirit in which you do it. Okay, so the question is not so much will you decide to act, rather, but how? Okay, the intentionality of designing a business through system development, it can be an expression of dismissing that sort of dualistic way of thinking that eventually leads to a full break in the tension. You solve the problem, you know specifically what excellence is now, and where you have basically been over allocating it. You know where you want to go. We got to expand value. You have the lens and the framework to get there, and you have the tools to build and organize. You understand that among all your domains, systems, processes, and plans, that people are the ultimate leverage to resolve the tension. Because it's those people that deliver both training and hospitality excellence as your true competitive advantage. So that when we build a signal that draws people in, they'll also feel our warmth, and we can all experience the meaning within belonging. Now, as we close, we could have called this talk, success through executing scaled belongingness, whatever you want to call it. But either way, you can now do it. I appreciate you. Thanks for your time.